Rapinoe turns well, deflection on the shot and in! Megan Rapinoe will be claiming the goal.
You're about to discover why Megan Rapinoe became the most polarizing figure in women's football. Not through headlines or simplified narratives, but through the revelations that explain everything.
I'm talking about pivotal moments you've never heard about.
The twin sister whose sacrifice made Rapinoe's career possible, the coach who nearly cut her from the national team, and the injury that transformed her playing style forever. These turning points connect her personal struggles to her public persona and hold the key to understanding who Megan Rapinoe truly is. By the end of this video, you'll see her story through an entirely new lens. When Megan Rapinoe steps onto the pitch, she's actually carrying the dreams of two people. Behind the pink hair and world-famous celebrations lies a story most football fans have never heard, the tale of an unbreakable twin bond that changed everything. In the small conservative town of Redding, California, Megan and Rachel Rapinoe were mirror images of each other, their lives intertwined like two vines growing from the same root. They shared that unique twin connection that seemed almost supernatural, a silent language of intuition, where one could sense the other's thoughts on the pitch before a move was made. Their talent was undeniable. Both dominated local youth leagues, with technical skills and vision that made college scouts take notice. When they both earned full scholarships to the University of Portland, a powerhouse in women's collegiate soccer, their parallel journeys seemed destined to continue, but fate intervened. During Rachel's sophomore year, she suffered a devastating ACL tear, the first of several career-altering injuries. This moment created the first significant fork in their shared path. While Megan continued developing into a standout winger and caught national team attention, Rachel endured multiple surgeries and grueling rehabilitation. The divergence profoundly transformed Megan. Each time she stepped onto the field, she carried a heightened sense of purpose, playing with the intensity of someone honoring an unspoken promise to her other half. Their support system extended beyond each other. Their older brother Brian's struggles with addiction and incarceration shaped Megan's worldview fundamentally. Witnessing how systems failed her brother despite his potential planted the early seeds of her activism and showed her how institutions could trap people in cycles of punishment rather than rehabilitation. As Megan's profile rose with the national team, Rachel became her most valuable critic. She would travel to matches, offering that uniquely direct feedback only a twin could provide. Your teammates. One former player recalled, "When Megan gives feedback, there's no sugarcoating. It took me time to understand that's her language of respect." Their relationship evolved as Rachel became Megan's advisor on everything from contracts to personal decisions. When Megan considered coming out publicly, or when sponsors questioned her activism, Rachel reminded her of what Brian's struggles had taught them. Authenticity matters more than approval. In private moments, Megan has revealed her true motivation. "I'm playing for both of us," she once told a teammate, carrying Rachel's potential onto that field with mine. This twin motivation explains the fierce intensity that defines Rapinoe. She performs for two dreams, united as one. The intensity that defined Rapinoe's play would soon be redirected toward the fight of her life. In 2008, just as her career with the national team was taking flight, disaster struck during a match against China. The sound echoed across the field, that sickening pop every athlete fears, reverberating like a gunshot in the stadium's hush. Megan collapsed, clutching her knee in agony. The diagnosis was devastating, a complete ACL tear, the first of 3 major knee injuries that threatened her career before it truly began. The timing was catastrophic. Rapinoe watched the 2008 Beijing Olympics from her couch, leg propped up after surgery. Isolated from teammates and the game she loved, Megan sank into a depression few witnessed, questioning everything about her future in football. Alone with her thoughts during those darkest moments, she later admitted in a rare moment of vulnerability, "I didn't know who I was anymore. Your whole identity becomes wrapped up in being this elite athlete, and suddenly that's gone. I'd lie awake wondering if I'd ever play at that level again." The isolation was crippling. Medical professionals dampened her hopes. One doctor bluntly told her returning to elite international football was unlikely. Many players never regain their explosiveness after such injuries. Meanwhile, coaches began exploring alternatives for her position, with younger players climbing the depth chart. Her rehabilitation process wasn't just physically demanding, it forced a complete reimagining of her playing style. The pre-injury Rapinoe, dependent on explosive speed and direct running, wouldn't return. Instead, she developed exceptional vision, tactical awareness, and technical precision that became her trademarks. Pia Sundhage, taking over as head coach during Rapinoe's recovery, harbored significant doubts. "She needs to prove she can handle the defensive responsibilities," Sundhage remarked to staff, creating tension that would eventually erupt into conflict over playing time upon Megan's return. This challenge challenging period coincided with her internal struggle about sexuality. Though out to family and friends, she hadn't come out publicly, creating an emotional storm during her physical recovery. "There were days I couldn't get out of bed," she shared. "I was fighting battles on multiple fronts." This perspective explains why she later became a vocal mental health advocate in sports. Her recovery regimen became legendary, 6-hour daily sessions combining traditional rehabilitation with innovative approaches. While rebuilding her body, she studied film of top crossers and free kick specialists, developing the technical blueprint for her signature skills. What emerged from this crucible was a transformed player. Unable to rely on pure speed, Rapinoe developed arguably the best crossing ability in women's football. Her free kicks became weapons of precision rather than power. She learned to read the game at an elite level, anticipating play patterns instead of merely reacting to them. Rapinoe's reinvention as a player was just the beginning of a much more profound transformation. Everyone remembers her kneeling during the national anthem, but few know about the private doubts and personal cost behind that decision. The real story of how a reluctant midfielder became the most polarizing figure in women's sports began with a series of moments the cameras never captured. By 2015, Rapinoe had secured her place in the USWNT setup, but remained in the shadow of megastars like Abby Wambach and Alex Morgan. While her technical abilities earned respect on the pitch, her voice carried little weight in the locker room compared to these established leaders. Behind the scenes, however, Rapinoe's frustration was building. During team meetings about collective bargaining agreements, she would exchange knowing glances with teammates as they discussed the stark reality. Despite winning World Cups, they earned a fraction of what their male counterparts made for achieving far less. The pay gap wasn't just about money, Rapinoe later explained in a podcast interview. It was about value. We were being told our achievements were worth less, that our game was worth less, that we were worth less. What most fans don't realize is that Rapinoe initially resisted becoming the face of this fight. In private conversations with her agent, she expressed serious concerns about damaging her sponsorship potential. Having finally secured deals with Nike and other brands after years of financial struggle, she feared losing everything she'd worked for. A teammate who requested anonymity revealed, "Megan was honestly scared. She kept asking if speaking up would end her career before it really took off." This hesitation disappeared following two life-changing events in 2016. First was meeting Sue Bird at the Rio Olympics, beginning a relationship that would profoundly shape Rapinoe's perspective. Bird, already an outspoken advocate in the WNBA, challenged Rapinoe's cautious approach. "Sue helped me understand that my platform wasn't just something I earned. It was a responsibility," Rapinoe wrote in her memoir. The second pivotal moment came after a chance meeting with Colin Kaepernick at a charity event. Their conversation lasted nearly 3 hours, with Kaepernick explaining his protest and the thought process behind it. What struck Rapinoe wasn't just his conviction, but his clarity. He had made peace with the potential consequences before taking a knee. According to a mutual friend present at their meeting, Rapinoe left saying, "If he can risk his entire NFL career, what exactly am I protecting?" When Rapinoe first knelt during the anthem before a Seattle Reign match in September 2016, the backlash was immediate and severe. Her Instagram filled with death threats. Sponsors threatened to pull deals. Most painfully, several USWNT teammates publicly distanced themselves from her actions. "I support Megan as a person, but I believe we should stand for the anthem," said one prominent teammate, creating a rift that would take years to heal. US Soccer's response was swift and pointed. They quickly implemented Policy 6041, requiring all players to stand respectfully during the national anthem, a rule clearly aimed directly at Rapinoe. When faced with this ultimatum, teammates expected her to back down. Instead, in a team meeting that former staff described as the most tense room I've ever been in, Rapinoe announced she would continue her protest in spirit while technically complying with the new policy. Her decision to exchange kneeling for standing silently, often with arms outstretched, represented the true transformation. It wasn't the protest itself that defined her. It was her willingness to face the consequences rather than compromise her beliefs. That meeting was when Megan stopped being just a player, said a former coach. She became something else entirely, someone who understood her power extended beyond the field. As Megan Rapinoe hangs up her boots, we're left with a legacy that transcends the boundaries of sport. Behind the pink hair and celebration poses stands a woman who rebuilt herself multiple times after career-threatening injuries, through personal struggles, and amid intense public scrutiny. What makes Rapinoe truly remarkable isn't the World Cup trophies or Olympic gold medals, but her refusal to fragment herself into convenient pieces for public consumption. The Rapinoe story is ultimately about integration, bringing together athletic excellence and personal conviction when the easier path would have been to keep them separate. In a sporting world that often tells athletes to shut up and play. She insisted on bringing her whole self to every match, every interview, every moment in the spotlight. This authenticity wasn't without cost. She faced criticism from teammates, governing bodies, and segments of the public. Yet her willingness to risk everything, career, reputation, financial security, for her beliefs reveals why she approached football with the same fearlessness. Once you've stared down the possibility of losing your career to injury or your public standing to activism, a pressure penalty kick doesn't seem quite as daunting. Rapinoe leaves the game having redefined what it means to be an athlete in today's world. Not just someone who plays, but someone who stands for something larger than themselves.